Good morning, and we are live from the Sci-Fair Home and Outdoor Show. This is the Homeowner Show. We are glad you're here. We're glad you're here.
We're glad you're here too, Kev.
That's right. That's right. My name is Kevin Hackett, and here with me is Craig Williams. And what's going on, man?
Hey, hello. Welcome to Homeowner Show. We are not in the studio. We are live here at the Berry Center with our friends from True Texas Solar in their booth. If you are here and you happen to catch get the notification that we are live, come by and say hello. We'd love to see you, shake your hand, say how do you do. How are you doing, Kev? You do, Kev?
Dude, I'm good, man. I'm good. It's gonna be a busy weekend, but this is exciting, man. There's all kinds of vendors here as we look around. We did this a couple of weeks ago up in Conroe, but here we are in the Sci-Fair area. We're at the Berry Center.
Yep.
And I don't know if you may have said that a minute ago, but
I did.
Yeah, I thought you did. But once again, the Berry Center. This place is amazing, and there's a lot of people here. So I mean, look, if you're looking for any type of home service, I would encourage you to come out, and you can meet us and say hello, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's even some pretend broadcasting people around the corner.
I saw that.
I mean, I think they're on the radio.
What? The what?
Minor players.
AM.
Nobody in the world is listening to them right now.
I mean, I don't want to throw shade on anybody, but come on, man.
I'm serious. Nobody's listening. Sorry. Anyway, hello, Facebook, the entire Facebook world.
Yeah.
I think you're bigger than the AM world.
They got a few billion users. It's,
something like that. Something like that. Well, what are we going to do today, Craig?
Well, we got a guest here. Why don't you let everybody know who you are and what you do, man?
Hi, I'm Dale Claudel. I'm Chief Financial Officer for True Texas Solar, also a co-owner in the company. True Texas Solar is a family-owned, faith-based company. We've been in business for 2 years, so we're an upstart energy company located in Conroe. And we are a full-service engineering, procurement, construction, or EPC company for both residential applications for renewable energy, backup generation, and the same for commercial customers as well. So it's great to have you here with us.
Yeah, man, and I know you wanted to spend some time talking about some of the nuances of commercial solar power. But real quick, how did you get roped into all this, man? How'd you? I mean, because you haven't been doing solar your whole life.
Not my whole life, but I've been in the electric utility industry for 26 years. Prior to coming to True Texas Solar, I worked with Entergy Corporation, which is a very large investor-owned, vertically integrated public utility that serves Southeast Texas, areas close to here, as well as Louisiana, Arkansas, and Mississippi, and had a variety of positions there. I was vice president of power generation, so I was responsible for their fossil-fueled power generation fleet, as well as the growing renewables that they have, and had a great career there, great opportunity. I was responsible for grid modernization there as well, and then went to Black & Veatch, which is like True Texas Solar, but obviously at a global scale, focusing on utility and heavy industrial applications. They're an EPC firm. I desired to have a closer touch to the customers, the end customers. That's where my passion has always been. I believe heavily in what we do, the whole value that you get from sustainable solutions, and not only the impact on the environment, but the energy independence it gives to customers is something that I'm passionate about. So after having worked in the corporate world for 26 years, I decided to come in and to become an owner of True Texas Solar and to bring a lot of the utility level processes, the professional practices that we had established on the mega project scale to True Texas Solar, so that we could be increasingly enabled to do commercial projects and to do them with safety and cost and schedule certainty.
Yeah. So then, what are the big benefits for like a commercial business to go with solar, I guess to have it be their main source of energy?
Yeah. It's very much the same as it would be for a residential homeowner. The benefits are very much the same, but there are some additional ones as well. Primarily, it's the reduction of energy costs. The great thing about renewable energy like solar power is that once you have the system in place, you're able to produce electricity from the sun, obviously with zero cost for the production of electricity. There's very minimal cost with maintaining the systems because, for those that are battery backup or solar PV, there's really no moving parts. And so...
real quick, what does PV stand for?
Oh, I'm sorry, photovoltaic. So when
Okay.
we think, there are different forms of solar energy that you can, or solar energy technologies, so you could do concentrated beam solar, but photovoltaic is the most common with the solar panels.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, so you get the energy benefit associated with the reduction of having to purchase that power from the grid. You also get the benefit of having a source of backup power when you couple it with a battery, or even if you do decide to couple it with a generator as well. A lot of the customers that we're seeing in the commercial space are really interested because they want that 100% service factor that you can get from a renewable energy system when it's coupled with backup generation. We were talking to a gas station owner the other day who said that during a storm that had occurred a couple of years ago, they were able to stay in business because of their backup generation and essentially make all of the revenue they typically make in 1 month because of the increased demand. Their competitors couldn't do it. So financially, it's the energy savings that really drives the benefits. I'm sure we'll probably talk about this in a minute if you go there around the initial cost of the system,
Right.
often the biggest consideration to consider, but there are unique benefits that apply to renewable energy systems as owned by businesses as opposed to residential homeowners in order to be able to reduce that cost. The other benefits that we're seeing people increasingly being driven by are ESG scores or environmental, social, and governance scores.
Okay.
It's really a way of measuring the sustainability of companies and their or international standards for that. And increasingly for those companies that are investor-owned, investors are putting their money into companies that have high ESG scores or companies that focus on environmental sustainability, social causes, and strong governance as they're managed at the corporate level. And so I would say that those are the biggest benefits, and we can help customers map out a plan in order to achieve all of those.
So I got a question
Yes.
related to some of this because what I love the idea of, personally as a consumer, I love the idea of a business being able to stay open if there's power outage, especially if it has to do with like energy sources like gas. Especially if I'm running a generator at home and it's a gas generator, or living here in Houston, I mean, goodness, if a hurricane comes through, a lot of people are running gas generators, right? And so we have issues with those sorts of things. But how would a business owner who doesn't own their space, because a lot of commercial real estate is not owned by the business, it's owned by a bigger entity of some sort. What is your suggestion of getting some of those businesses to advocate for, hey, if a outage happens, or maybe here's an opportunity for you to own your own energy? What is your suggestion as far as that goes?
Well, that is true. I mean, it's also the case with us at True Texas Solar. We lease our office space. One of the things that a business owner can do is to have a discussion with the property management company, whoever's managing the property where they rent or lease, and to discuss what the benefits would be of that owner investing in a system for them. Number one, it could create stability in the revenue streams because they're able to be more financially healthy whenever they are able to stay in business. That's always a challenge.
And the leasee is able to go, look, I can be in business longer.
That's right.
If something happens.
That's right.
If there's this energy opportunity, and if something happens and I tank, well, then now you're out a lease.
Yes.
Agreement.
That's true. And what I have seen, we have talked to, we have one real estate developer that has multiple buildings, multiple meters, primarily used for office space, a little bit of light commercial kind of manufacturing there as well. And the owner of the building is interested in implementing a renewable energy system for a number of reasons, one of which is that he can charge back to his customers at that space a reasonable price for the power so that he can manage the energy usage at that level and earn some revenue from it. The other thing is the owner of the space may be better positioned to be able to fund a system like that because he might be sitting on lots of deposits that he has in managing his commercial property suite, so to speak. And the benefits that the government offers, and for commercial business, well, for everybody, no matter if you're residential, commercial, or industrial, the Inflation Reduction Act, and specifically the investment tax credit, would apply for a commercial project as well. And for those of you who out in your viewing audience may not know what that is, within the Inflation Reduction Act, the investment tax credit allows owners of renewable energy systems to receive a 30% tax credit against their federal tax obligation, 30% of the value of the system as it is installed. The caveat with that is that they need to be able to have the tax liability so that they can leverage it, because they're not going to get a check for it unless they're a nonprofit, a government entity, or a tribal entity. They're not going to get a check for that, but they will be able to offset their federal tax credit by that. In addition, whether it is a business that owns the property where they are doing business, or there's a landowner there, for commercial businesses, and this is one of the differences with from a residential perspective, a business can depreciate the asset. And not only depreciate the asset, but there is a specific system at the federal government level called the Modified Accelerated Cost Recovery System, or MARCS, that allows you to take a long-lived asset like a renewable energy system and depreciate it over 5 years. And so not only can you depreciate it over 5 years, but you can also take what's called bonus depreciation in the first year. The net effect of that is that you can combine both benefits, the Inflation Reduction Act and the investment tax credit within it, and accelerated and bonus depreciation associated with the MARC system for a project, let's say, that costs $100,000, and for the business, if they have a tax rate of, let's say, 21%, at the end of year one, they will get a $41,000 credit on their taxes. So on top of the 30%, they get another 11. And one last thing is that if you can ensure, and we could do this as True Texas Solar, ensure that at least 40% of the material for that system is constructed from domestically produced materials, they get an extra 10%. Yeah. So in that scenario,
that's
after
cool.
year one, it'd be 50% of the cost of the original
Yeah,
installation.
that's what I was actually going to mention that, because the church I attend actually just invested in solar, and because they're a nonprofit, they literally got, because they took advantage of all those things that you just said.
Yes.
And so 50% of the cost of the solar came back in the form of a check.
That's right.
Because they're a nonprofit, not because it's not against their tax liability, because they have no tax liability. That is something that's changed recently in the government.
Exactly.
To be able to really, you have to recognize, and I know there are skeptics out there that that solar this, solar that, but at the end of the day, the government is recognizing that we have to figure out a way to increase our energy and
right.
to not just rely. With more people, more homes, more businesses, more electric vehicles, all these things, we're going to have to figure out a way to increase energy output so that we can have the energy input. So they're looking at ways to include that in things like nonprofit that really didn't benefit from it,
right.
A few
right.
years ago. But now that was really good for us. Not only that, there were some things that you're able, if you do this right, then you can also roll in roofing needs, roofing repairs, roofing. Like for example, we had a metal roof at our church. Well, there's a very cool coating that you can put on a metal roof that reduces the heat level that roof absorbs by an incredible 50 to 60%. It's incredible. You apply that before you do it and allow, you kind of lump it all in. You
That's
can
right.
put it into the loan and get that half back as well. You get all of it at once. So there's so many benefits. I'm not trying to do your job for you here.
Yeah.
But I am
You're
just
doing
saying,
a great job.
I am just saying that you said a lot of big words just a minute
Yeah.
ago, and practically I'm going, okay, how does that work? Just for a nonprofit, that's how it would work for an instance that I'm aware of.
Yes.
But I see what you're saying as well for a for-profit business. Many of them still have hundreds of thousands of dollars of tax liability
That's
every
right.
year.
Yeah.
You know, so to be able to get back, even that 30 all the way up to 50% of that in a form of a credit
Yes.
That's massive, because talk about the difference between a credit and just a deduction, like a standard deduction or an increased deduction versus
Yes.
a credit. What's the difference?
Well, the difference between a credit and a deduction is, a deduction would allow you to deduct from your wages, from your adjusted gross income. That is the basis upon which tax is assessed. And so in that sense, it's not a dollar for dollar reduction. You're just reducing dollar for dollar your income, and then you're taxed on less of your income. But a tax credit is really lucrative because that is a dollar for dollar reduction in your tax obligation to the government. And to further your point, I'm just looking right across from us. We've got someone who is doing windows, and then we've got roofing a couple booths down. And just as you said, within the Inflation Reduction Act, there are provisions where you can get credits if you install energy efficient windows, do roofing repairs needed for the solar like you mentioned, but also for installing energy efficient appliances as well.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, there's options.
Well, and so I know this is something we actually talked a little bit about before the show about, we're going to be discussing. Last time we discussed residential, we were going to talk on the commercial side. So are all those benefits available regardless of whether or not you own the property? Can you be like a tenant and then have solar installed to get the same benefits?
Well, you can, that would be an arrangement between the business and the property management, of course, but the answer would be it depends upon how the property manager wants to allocate those benefits. Whoever owns the property owns the system,
right?
And then they would get the tax credits that we talked about. And the energy could be, some of those benefits could be transferred to the tenant of the property. It just depends upon whatever arrangement makes sense. As I mentioned, one of our customers was thinking about doing that. And for some tenants, they would like to be able to just have one price and not have to worry about their energy usage. And as it cycles, that could be a little protection they would get from having to make higher payments in the summer or in periods of peak demand.
Because I'm thinking selfishly, like I personally own the property that my business is office out of. And those are our office locations. The business rents those from me.
Right.
So, and I'm sitting here going, okay, so the benefits sound better on the commercial side. So if I could do them through the commercial end, but still retain the ownership of the property as an individual, that'd be incredible.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. I mean, when you think about it, as we talked about, the ability to depreciate the system really compounds on top of the Inflation Reduction Act. The thing is, one of the things...
I love that name, by the way.
The inflation... Yeah, well, yeah. I'd be interested in hearing your...
It's counterintuitive, but
yes.
I get it. If you think about it, it's to decrease the rate of inflation, but it's inflation reduction. Anyway, it's like an oxymoron. Yeah. Thanks, government.
Let us spell out exactly how we're going to fail.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Sorry, I interrupted completely. Did I sidetrack you?
I think, really what I was saying is that one of the main differences from an initial upfront cost is the ability to depreciate the system, not just to depreciate it, but to advance it up and to lower your obligation. And to the extent you don't have a current obligation in that year that meets that full benefit, you can carry that forward and then decide how you want to allocate that. If you have the property that you own, well, then you would capture that benefit, and you could then determine how you want to pass that on to someone who might be renting your premises.
Okay. And is it, at that point, is it better for, and Kev, you may know this because you guys just put one in, but is it better to build more than what you need? I guess some of that depends on who your power company is, because where we're at, which is Mid-South, which is a, what is Mid-South, Kev?
A co-op?
It's a co-op.
It's a co-op. Thank you. Yeah, a co-op. They don't buy back any additional that we would make, which is one of the issues we've run into with putting solar on our property in general. Is we lose incentives by our power company not offering those like other ones do. But I'm curious on the commercial side, would it be beneficial to build more than what you need, or you just kind of design it for exactly what you need?
Well, I think, for the most part, our clients seek to achieve 100% offset. And offset is a term that we use that when we think over the course of a period of time, let's say annually, there's so much energy demand that they have.
Right.
And what we typically do, the vast majority of customers want us to try to achieve zero there. And because of what you mentioned, because most utilities or co-ops don't buy back at the rate that they sell it to you for.
Right.
They typically buy it back at their avoided cost. And so you get a very low price for what is generated over what is consumed through the use of credits. So it really depends upon what rate plan you're in. Here in this part of the state, there are rate plans that do what is called net metering, which is basically to buy back and to give you credits for the energy that you've produced at a rate in which you use it, the same utility rate that you use it. And whenever you do that, that offers a lot of flexibility, and it could be a source of revenue for you, quite frankly. And when you think about it from a commercial, the biggest driver of the economics for any system, and especially commercial, are going to be the design considerations of the building. So for example, we've got a commercial project in San Antonio. It is a high-rise apartment for low-income individuals. It's government subsidized, but it's on 10 floors up.
Right.
And so there's a lot more wiring and conduit that we use in that project than we would if it were, something that was closer to the ground, 10 or 20 feet off of the ground. And so cost is going to be a real consideration there. But when you think about the benefits that we talked about earlier, which is from the Inflation Reduction Act and the depreciation through the MARC system, you can essentially cut the cost of this system by 40 to 50% depending upon what materials we use.
Yeah.
And so it becomes economical to design to achieve over 100% offset as long as you have the utility rate plan that buys back at a level at which they sell it to you so that you can truly net meter.
Are there power companies that you're aware of that are pushing back from adopting these kinds of plans? And
yes, and
we don't need to name them. I'm just
right, and I wouldn't. Yeah, but they are, from the utility perspective, and I've worked there for I've worked in the utility space for 26 years, let's say. And I certainly see it from the utility perspective. The utility industry is the most capital-intensive industry on the planet. And whenever they seek money from investors in order to make these large investments, well, their investors want to have assurance that that investment will be paid back with their principal and the interest. It's logical. It's what we would all expect, just investing and working within a modern economy, a capitalist system. And so what happens is that the more people that implement renewable energy systems lessen the demand on the grid, and by doing that, utilities will charge in terms of cents per kilowatt hour. So if there are less kilowatt hours being consumed, there's less cents coming into the ledger from their perspective. And so that's something that could be considered a threat, but there are very proactive utilities out there that recognize the benefits of these systems. And the interesting thing about it is that renewable energy systems, these distributed energy systems that we put in, they may lessen the need from the energy from the grid. They increase the level of investment that utilities need to make in order to be able to accommodate two-way power flows. And utilities are evolving from a mindset of just thinking about what they provide is an input to production, electricity, and they think about their customers more holistically, offering services to customers in many different ways. And so those forward-thinking utilities look at distributed generation and can see an opportunity for them to have to invest in the system, something that they can easily sell to rate regulators because that need is there. They have to be able to manage the system reliably, and to do that, they have to invest in smart grid devices, and they can get capital cost recovery for doing that. So it's those utilities that are forward-thinking, and they're thinking about how can I serve customers in new ways and generate new sources of revenue that are quite welcoming to distributed generation.
Well, and so what I want to ask you now is what everybody's wondering. The big question is, what does financing look like on the commercial side of solar?
Well, there's typically three kind of ways to go about financing a system, and they're similar between commercial and residential.
Obviously, cash is always welcome.
Cash is always welcome. It's always the best. It's always the best alternative for customers because, essentially, when you invest in a renewable energy system, you're essentially transferring risk, so to speak. there is a risk of increasing fuel prices and commodity prices and electricity. And historically, that's increased over time by 2 to 3% on average, and it certainly is location specific. You're able to trade that risk and hedge that risk by putting in place a fixed payment stream if you finance. So certainly with cash, you pay up front, and then you get that free energy back from the grid. But then when you finance, you're essentially trading what you would expect to be an escalating energy price that you'll have to pay with a fixed income stream of payments. Now, interest rates are pretty high right now. As everybody knows, it's really having an effect on everybody. But even with that being the case, you can fix that payment and know that whenever rates come down, most lenders will allow you to refinance at lower rates. And so you can reset the rates several times periodically through the loan. So so there's cash, and then there's the financing options that we have. And companies will go to credit unions or go to traditional banks. There are banks that have solar-specific loans out there for businesses to consider. And the third piece is either a lease or a purchase power agreement. Now, we at True Texas Solar don't really participate in that.
Okay.
And I think that when you talked earlier about some of the challenges in the industry, maybe on previous podcasts around players out there that are not very ethical. A lot of them will push and mislead customers into going into purchase power agreements or leases, and those can really, encumber a property whenever someone is wanting to sell it. So we don't really get into those, but that is an option that would allow people to get into ownership with very low to no upfront cost. The challenge you have to look at there is what kind of escalation provisions do you have in that purchase power agreement, because that can wipe away any benefit that you would get from trading what would be expected higher energy prices in the future with a fixed stream, because some companies that own them put in escalation provisions. So essentially what they're doing is becoming your utility versus the utility that you used to pay.
I got you. So they want to put you in, like, it's a long-term relationship that, one, locks the property down, but also makes you come back to them always for your power. Like,
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
One other question I've got related to financing is, have you ever had anyone do like a, I don't even know what it's called all of a sudden, but like an investor type of loan where you've got someone who's looking to invest money, and they become the bank, and maybe the loan is instead of an 8% loan, maybe they're given a 7.5%, but the investor is interested in lending money for a large amount, and this would be one of those types. Have you ever seen that, or do you think that's even an option that people should consider?
Yeah, those options are out there, and when you do like a purchase power agreement, those loans are backed by a collection of investors that go out and they actually own the system, and they get the benefits that we talked about from the government, and they essentially have lended their money out there for a residential homeowner to be able to install the system. And so you see that is the approach that's taken under purchase power agreements and lease agreements as well.
So that's actually part of one of the things that you wouldn't recommend.
Well, it might be right. I think that there's probably a certain class of customer where going into a purchase power agreement makes sense. They're not really driven by the economics of the system. They've got a deep commitment to the environment, and perhaps they don't have the credit worthiness to be able to afford a system on their own, and they plan to live in the home or operate the business for a very long period of time. So I think it's kind of a more narrow set of customers than what we broadly serve, but for them that makes sense.
Okay, that's good.
So, like, what are some of the biggest hangups that you hear from commercial clients as to why they may not want to go solar? Or like, what do you think is one of the biggest things that's in their way to keeping them from moving forward with it, getting into solar? Yeah,
well, there's a couple of things really. I mean, typically the biggest thing is upfront cost, and
it's a big number. Usually,
it's a big number, but these systems again have a pretty good payback period. It would not be uncommon to have a 5-year to 7-year payback period, especially when you consider all the benefits that we talked about before. So typically it's upfront cost. The second thing associated with challenges for why they may not why they may waver on it, or factors beyond their control. It could just be the physical layout of their property. They may have a desire to do it. For example, we have another potential commercial customer that has a hotel.
Right.
And the insurance requirements for the hotel will not allow them to install the system on the roof of the hotel. And so they would then be looking at a ground mount situation. They actually have a pretty decent size lot that we could put the system on and achieve a really good offset. We talked about offset before. But the problem is the height of the building is probably about 45 feet. And so that's going to cast a big shadow.
Yeah.
And the property is going to be hit by that shadow, and it's going to reduce the energy output of the system. And so we suspect with that one, we haven't finished the analysis, but that could be about a 40% offset. And so when you think about, you have to buy an inverter, you have to do the permitting, you have to do the engineering. So the bigger the system is, you get economies of scale.
Yeah.
But if you have that much offset, then it makes those, you just couldn't put the panels out there because they wouldn't receive the sunlight.
On that one in particular, like the roof situation, is it because the roof can't bear the load, or is it just what was the issue with the panels on that one?
You know, I never asked them what the insurance requirements are, but it's a hotel, and
Okay.
so they may look at it. There may be some kind of provisions within their general liability policy that prevent them from installing electrical systems on the roof. We hadn't run into this before, quite frankly, but it did necessitate us to have to use the land. And they would get some offset, but economically it might be a challenge for that to make sense.
So I'm thinking about a lot of the commercial guys that I know. I mean, they have like warehouses, and like big metal roofs. Is that going to cause it to be a different kind of installation for you guys? I mean, because I'm thinking about warehouses that I'm looking at, and I'm going, okay, does that bear the same kind of a load as like a residential roof? And so, like, what do you have to do then?
I think it would be stronger.
I would think it would be, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's a great question. We've had several customers lately come to us and ask us to design systems for them. The largest was a 1 megawatt system that we were designing for a company who will remain nameless for this, but basically they're installing a solar panel manufacturing facility here in Texas.
Okay.
And they have like a 300 by 175 foot warehouse, and they're seeking to install a system on that roof. And so that one has, I think it's a 5% pitch, standing metal seam roof. It's just an engineered metal building, basically, like what you would see. And then we've had another client that is going to be a new construction suitable for storage. It's going to be basically portable storage units. And so for those systems, what we typically do is we'll do flat mount systems where the solar panels are flat mounted to the roof. And because they're standing seam, we've got brackets, mounting bases that clamp to the seam and drill into the side of the standing seam, so it's not sitting in a valley to prevent the leak intrusion that you might be concerned about. Very reliable systems. And so for those systems, all the ones that we have designed, there have been no structural issues. And by the way, anytime we design a system for a residential customer or a commercial customer, we engineer that solution and we stamp it and ensure that we've got the professional engineers backing behind the analysis that was done to ensure that it's available. The one that we're doing in San Antonio is a cement roof. Basically every floor is constructed of cement. And then they have a couple layers of foam insulation that total about 5.5 inches thick. For that one, we drill straight into the cement and we mount the bases and we attach the rails to that in a flat mounted situation. So the attachment hardware is different, but all the basics of the system will be the same as what we would do for a residence.
So there's not really any opportunity loss based on the type of building. There's very few situations, unless it's a scenario where, like you said, the insurance is getting involved or other liabilities that may prevent it.
Right. The major thing that we look at whenever we design a system and when we first do a site assessment is what is the orientation of the roof relative to the North Pole. Where we are, of course, in the Northern Hemisphere,
we're closer. That's what I know. I'm not real good at geometry.
Right. That's right. Really, the equator is what really matters in the path of the sun. So basically, we're about 30 degrees latitude north of the equator, and so the optimum tilt for any roof would be about 30 degrees, is what we try to achieve. And if there could be more cost to do that, but also we generally are trying to aim south to 180 degrees, and that, or maybe 180, 185 degrees to maximize the benefits of the sun. Those are the major factors that we try to achieve on any installation.
So one of the things you mentioned just a minute ago that I think is really important is you mentioned that the payoff for one of these is about 5 to 7 years. So this is where things really became very interesting to me. Thank you, Craig, for fixing our camera. If you're watching this live, our camera was starting to fade away. So, as a resident owner, I was looking at solar at one point. This is like 5 years ago. It was like, it's like probably a 30-year payoff to do something like that.
Right.
And it's like, okay, so for the next 30 years, I'm going to have to pay this off. But what you said, and this really comes into play whenever you're talking about the Inflation Reduction Act and the marks and the American-based panels and all that kind of stuff. Now, you're talking to a 5 to 7 year payoff to get a panel that's not even going to start truly getting to a point where replacement is necessary for 20 years probably at the most. So you're literally paying off in 5 to 7 years, and then your energy, I'm going to say a word that's probably not fair to say, but it's free for the next 13 years of owning that system. And so, like, for example, our church that probably incurs $5,000 to $7,000 worth of electricity every month, you bear that out over a year, and now you're at 80 to 100 grand a year over the next 13 years. Y'all, that's over $1 million for a business that's of any size. That's just this one church. That is incredible.
It is.
That is incredible.
That's right. And that's where we see the growth of the industry going, is toward commercial nonprofits and even government facilities as well. And, when you think about the word that you use, free, and this is one of the things that we work to do at True Texas Solar, which is to educate our customers to not think that they will never have an energy bill again.
Sure.
Because as we talked about the investments that the utilities make into the grid, they want to be able to recoup that investment. So there's a delivery charge that you will receive on the bill regardless of whether or not you consume. And there could be other riders out there associated with repairing storm damage and that kind of thing. But the electricity itself, the energy that you generate, is free. But the system still has to be maintained over time. And so when you think about the cost of maintaining a system over time, it is relatively low. The systems that we install have the capability of being monitored remotely, and we do that. So if there's ever an issue with the inverter, with the battery, or with the production of the system, we will see it usually before the customer does. And it is rare that we get any alerts like that because the systems are very, very reliable. The technology today is very good. We only use level 1 or tier 1 products, which have the highest warranties, the highest quality, and backed by the government ranking system. But basically, we do remote monitoring. If there is an issue, we will go out, we will diagnose what the issue is, and we'll repair the issue. But they are very rare. So there is that remote monitoring that you do. The panels periodically need to be cleaned. We get a lot of rain here in Texas, so the rain, Mother Nature takes care of that.
Pollen.
But during pollen season, for sure, you're going to have challenges where, you got to stay on top of it. And there's a minimal amount of energy loss there, but to stay on top of it, we monitor that. And vegetation management, and this is especially true for utility scale solar. Vegetation management is one of the biggest costs that anybody who owns renewable energy has to maintain. And so, when we design the system, we do it knowing where the trees are, knowing where the shading is, so making sure that you're maintaining the vegetation so it's not becoming overgrown is also something that needs to be considered too.
Well, that's good. I knew that it wasn't free, but I also know that in relatively speaking, even if it was 10% of what your energy bill was, instead of a $6,000 or $7,000 a month payment.
Yes.
If you're paying $600 or $700 a month instead, and just regular maintenance that you're kind of
Right.
maybe even socking away just in case
Yeah.
something happens, I look at that and I go, man, the opportunity now is really, really great.
Is great. And a lot of what we do is education, and through news sources such as yours, this does a lot for the industry and helping people understand what those benefits are. I think there's, people are reluctant to explore this because they may look at it as an extremely costly investment. But because of the advantages that you get from some of the things we talked about, that cost is not as high as probably what most people think.
Yeah, for sure. And it's offset by a lot of different other benefits and a
Right.
lot of different other things that are included. And honestly, like I want to ask you a question rather than say it. So have you ever considered the angle? I'll put it that way. That it's like there are certain people that love the idea of people that are being, going the green route, people that are going the route of, look, I'm trying to help the environment, those sorts of things. Have you ever considered the option of talking to potential consumers, whoever that is, whether commercial or residential, and going, man, that business is really, they care about the environment even. They've installed a system that now is benefiting not just them, it's benefiting the world.
That's right. We do that, and we see that with commercial establishments, that's increasingly becoming important. There has just been a generational change in the way that people view energy and view the environment, and no matter what end of the political spectrum that you're on, it's a good thing to be able to do things that protect the environment, conserve natural resources. We talked about the reduction of fossil fuel usage and CO2 production, but renewable energy also allows us as a society to be able to minimize the impact on the water as well. And there are communities all across the United States and some here in Texas that cannot develop because they cannot have access to water.
Okay.
And power consumption, centralized power generation has a water consumption requirement there that's pretty large, and so it's a consideration. So for us, we don't advocate that the world go totally off of fossil fuels. You have to, and I think from a utility perspective, you have to be able to ensure the reliability of the bulk electric system, the electric grid, and especially in heavily industrialized areas where you've got motors that have to be started up, you need spinning mass of generators to be able to maintain frequency on the system. So it's important to be able to have that, but renewable energy does play a role. And what we're seeing, especially with people in their 20s and their 30s, they're increasingly making decisions about who they purchase from based upon the sustainability of the company and sustainability measured by the environment, what they do for social reasons, and also how well they're governed as an enterprise too.
Right. There's another business out there that I think ought to consider solar more, and that's RV parks.
Yes.
Because in an RV park, if the power goes out, and I'll tell you one of the things that is really, really challenging for a lot of RV parks, especially the more mom and pop type places, not the KOAs that are probably built with certain standards. For people that we own a camper, and we make sure that we have a surge protector on that thing, because there can be some pretty heavy fluctuations in energy that come through that, depending on a lot of different factors. Because when the RV park is full, the power consumption is high. When it's not as full, obviously it's easier. You've got 30 amp power versus 50 amp power. You got some people that may just be running, they're dry camping on some level. So there's a lot of different levels there. But typically they've got the land. They don't have to put it on top of a roof or those types. They can ground mount them, which we've talked about before is one of the best options of how to do that. But because you can angle them a certain way towards the sun, right? But also, if their power goes out or goes down, they've got that backup that like everything is taken care of. I can just see a massive opportunity for for places like that.
Yeah, the trailer parks are great candidates for that. Especially when you think about the ability to have a solar system coupled with battery energy storage and perhaps even a natural gas or a propane generator. We call that the trifecta. That allows you to be able to go off the grid completely and to operate indefinitely when designed appropriately, but you can keep your sewage lift station in service, right?
Yeah.
You can also ensure that the essential services are provided, not just electricity, but any kind of store, whatever they might have there. And the other thing, too, is especially along the Gulf Coast, trailer parks, or RV parks, I should say, they become very profitable whenever there are natural disasters.
Sure.
And people come in from all over the United States. I remember during Hurricane Ida, when I worked for an electric utility, the company amassed about 27,000 restoration workers, some of which were in the company, but about 27,000.
Wow.
I believe it was the largest restoration project that had been undertaken in the utility industry up into that time, that hurricane that affected parts of southeast Louisiana and
Right.
more broadly the whole state of Louisiana. And so everybody comes in, they want the RV parks.
Right.
And so whenever you don't have the RV parks, it's hard to get the workers in there.
Yeah.
And, the thing about battery storage is that, whenever there is a power outage, there's a transfer. It's very quick, very seamless. You talk about your electronics, they can ride through that very well, whereas if you just have a backup generator, there's going to be some downtime. You may lose what you're working on or cause a voltage surge. And so by coupling all three of those together, it works really well, especially for RV parks.
Can you imagine the mess, and I'm using that word very carefully, that would happen if these places went down, and I know it happens,
Right.
and they don't have a place to dump?
Yeah.
Like RV parks, like if your power goes out, you don't have a way because eventually they're going to have, the RV park owner is going to come around to you and say, I'm sorry, you can't operate your black tank or your gray
Yep.
tank right now because it is a problem, right?
Yeah. Especially if they're on well water as well.
Exactly.
They won't have the water. And so,
It's a problem.
yes, and we do lots of ground mount installations. Typically, you can orient them perfectly toward the south in order to go to maximize the energy production. And so, on a dollar for dollar basis, you can have the most economical system because you can maximize the use of the sun's natural resources,
Sure.
and it works very well.
Absolutely.
I'm actually surprised when I guess it was a year and a half ago we went out to the Grand Canyon, and it was just I was shocked when I drove out through parts of the desert and just like fields and fields and fields of solar panels. I mean,
Yes.
it looked like giant mirrors,
Yeah.
just like
Yes.
covering the sand out there. I'm surprised that on the commercial end of this, that there aren't neighborhoods, because we're building so many new neighborhoods, that they're not setting aside property in those neighborhoods to just go ahead and install solar to offset everyone in the neighborhood.
Right, right.
That seems like something that would be a real draw for a lot of people.
Why are
It's
you
like,
thinking
yes,
logically,
yes.
Craig?
It's like,
Right.
hey, we can live here, and because if you could, I don't know, I don't know how the math works on that, but like if you could reduce everyone or offset everyone's power usage by like 20%.
Yes.
They don't have to have a solar panel on their house because the neighborhood has a solar field set aside. They could probably do it in like 10 acres. I don't know.
Right.
And just offset everybody's power. And then if they wanted to get additional, they would have to get less in order to have full offset.
Yes.
Because I know that there's problems with residential homes, with like exposure and other houses being taller. If you're next to a 2-story house, you're a 1-story house, you're going to have less sun exposed, all that kind of stuff. But like, I'm just surprised there's not a neighborhood that hasn't done that. And maybe there is, and we just don't know about it. Or maybe do you know of anybody?
Well, the utilities out there, they do explore this. They call it community solar.
Right.
And they will size systems. They could be anywhere from a megawatt to 3 to 4, maybe even 5 megawatts. I know of a utility that's tried that in recent years and basically surveyed customers to understand, if we were to do this, would you subscribe to it?
Right.
And the thing is, when the utilities do it, the cost of generation from a utility, let's say it's 13 cents and primarily driven by centralized generation. If you're going to install, and so most combined cycle gas turbine power plants today, which is the typical form of conventional generation that's installed today, is very, very economic because, these are 1,000 megawatt sites that sit within a fence of, 20, 30, 40 acres.
Right.
And so you can produce 1,000 megawatts, but if you do a 3 to 4 megawatt system on a dollar for dollar basis, the cost will be higher because of the initial capital cost. And so it may not be as economic as centralized generation. And so for that reason, if people are really driven by economics, they may not be more inclined to do that. They may just say, well, I'm going to stay with my regular rate plan as opposed to going to like a community solar plan. But if you are environmentally conscious and that's very important to you, then we do have those customers out there that will do that. I think for developers, one of the things they'd have to consider is that they want to be in the long-term power business. I mean, they could set aside some of that property for that reason, but then they would have to think through the economics about how to capture that benefit over time from the residents who are getting that energy. So it would be something for them to consider.
Yeah, it's something worth thinking about.
Yeah, I think it almost would make more sense. And again, why am I trying to be logical? But it would almost make more sense for there are pockets of the world that is a huge draw.
Yes.
So then you take a community and you market it as the future, environmental friendly community of the future type of thing, like the whole Epcot type idea, where it's like, look, we're going to install solar, we're going to install things that are renewable, and you get to live here,
right?
And you get to be part of that.
In addition to that, that's a great point. You can also look at communities along the Gulf Coast that may only have one source of power into and out of the area.
Sure.
You think about Grand Isle, Louisiana, and I haven't kept up with their transmission system design in recent years, but years back, and there's still many communities like this. I know of several of them up in Arkansas where they are transmission constrained, and there's one source of power into that area. So in that case, it's very, very viable when you think about wanting to improve the reliability and the resiliency of a community. You have not just the option of putting another transmission line in there to provide redundancy, but you should also look at whether or not it makes sense to have a backup off-grid system. So you could have solar with storage and or generation in order to be able to serve that community. And oftentimes that is far more economic than having to go through land acquisition, eminent domain, and heavy construction of miles of transmission line just to serve a little community. And so
going through a mountain area, going through a reservoir, going through a lot of different things, right?
That's right. Exactly.
Interesting. Very interesting.
Well, is there anything that we've missed, man? Is there anything you want to make sure and get out to the peoples that we hadn't talked about yet?
I think I want to thank you for the opportunity to get this message out. I think that just in terms of the benefits that residents, homeowners can have and businesses can have by putting in a renewable energy system, it helps the whole ecosystem, the energy ecosystem. And what I mean by that is that, you can make a grid more resilient by having distributed power sources. And the utilities that we work with will have the ability to be able to interact with those systems and offer benefits to customers that we hadn't really talked about, such as demand response. This technology has the capability of being able to be integrated with the utility to be able to provide some of those services. And so, as the whole ecosystem evolves, the utilities, commercial businesses, homeowners, and the system becomes more smart and more able to accommodate two-way power flows, the more of these systems that are out there help us to improve the resiliency of the grid, help to spur more investment into the grid, and having the opportunity to share these benefits through your podcast is really important for people to see the benefits and start asking questions.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point, man, because so many people complain about the Texas grid in particular and how they're saying that they're improving it, but it just hasn't been resilient in the past. I mean, it's we've had several instances where it's just been completely knocked out. We've had rolling brownouts. We've had all these kinds of things. Yet, all the people who are complaining about it, I bet don't do anything to fix it for themselves.
That's right.
That's which to me is just always astounding. It's like, look, there's options for you to take back liberty for yourself.
Exactly. Exactly.
and actually have some control over this, but you just don't want to spend money.
Right,
That's
right.
it.
And-
that's the thing is, like, we're talking right now about how it may not be more money. In fact, it may save you money, especially on the commercial end. You know, residential, I know that there are savings as well, but it may save you money.
Yeah. Well,
love-
not just save you money, but like he mentioned before, it kept the gas station open.
Right.
That's right.
They were able to
It's
pump
making you
gas. Yeah, it's keeping you alive,
Right.
your business alive,
Right.
or your home, and there's all sorts of things that roll into that. But yeah, I mean, it irritates me when people complain and then do nothing.
That's right. We all can be a part of the solution, and the great thing about living in our society today is that we have the technology to help you to create your own grid at your house.
Right.
And to manage it just as the distribution grid is managed. You know, we've got things called smart panels that allow you to be able to know how much power is flowing through every one of your breakers, and to be able to incorporate that in with backup generation so that you can shed load and to be able to conserve your battery, or to be able to conserve the fuel that you use on your backup generation, and manage it just like a distribution grid. So we live in a great time. The options are out there for people to empower themselves, and we're in business at True Texas Solar to help people to do that.
Awesome. Well, if people have more questions or they want to get a hold of you, how do they do it?
Yep, they can go to truetexassolar.com, visit our website, reach out to us there, and we'll be there. Our phone number is on the website, and we'll answer the questions that they have.
Awesome, and we'll post up all the links for the website and everything like that in the show notes.
Great, thank
so,
you.
man, thank you so much for
you.
sitting down with us.
Thank you.
Kev, do you want to let him out, or you want me to?
You know what?
We're kind of trapped in here.
Yeah, I'll let him out.
You let him out?
I'll let him
You
out.
going to go get the next guy?
Yes, I
Okay.
will. I
All right.
will.
Then I will hold down the fort here.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Thank you.
Good to meet you.
You too. Take care. Thank
There we
you.
go. it's tight quarters up
It
in
is.
here. All right, so I have some stories I wanted to get through. One is this. So we here at the Homeowner Show, we actually broke the story months ago about squatters. And we've run several stories about squatters, and now the mainstream media is just now starting to report on this kind of stuff because it's starting to affect people in really negative ways. We have this story from the New York Post on March 19th, and the headline is, "Fed Up Homeowner Arrested After Tense Standoff with Squatters Stealing $1 million House She Inherited from Her Parents." So let me break down the story as to essentially what happened. This woman, her name is Adele Andalaro, inherited a home in New York from her parents. She does not live there, does not want to live there, and so she decided to sell the home and just get out from underneath that house. So when she went to check out the property that she had inherited, she was not informed. She realized that the locks had been changed and had not been given permission to do so. Upon further investigation, found out that the reason the locks had been changed is because squatters had moved in. And I think there were actually 3 different sets of squatters living in this house, and they had gone and changed the locks. So she confronts them, tells them that they need to leave, calls the police. The police tell the squatters that they need to leave. She gets frustrated and goes and just tries to change the locks on her own and gets arrested for this. This is just the craziest thing I continue to realize about how the real estate laws do not favor real estate owners. And it's becoming a real problem when people get, "Oh, I don't care." He's in the back corner over there. He's got the tree display. It's the same people. Yep. Guy in like the blue kind of checkered shirt with a beard. Sorry about that, y'all. Kevin was looking for some directions. The laws just don't favor real estate owners anymore. And we keep hearing these stories. We told you guys about the one where the guy got shot or shot at when he was trying to take back his own property. He had squatters living in there. We told you about the veteran who came back home from active duty only to find that squatters had moved into her house and she couldn't get them to leave. And now we have this one. And it's just becoming apparent that like property rights are not a thing. And I get that we have laws in place to help protect renters, and we need some protection for renters. But when it comes to when you have obvious situations where people have moved into property that they have no agreement with, they have no lease, they have no contract, they haven't paid rent, and clearly someone else owns the property and they're trespassing. Like there needs to be a way for owners to swiftly move these people out of their property. And I've talked about this several times before. I mean, but like, because we have the motto in the United States, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, which is great. But the original statement is life, liberty, and property. Property rights are huge. And I think here in the U.S. we've forgotten some of that how important it is for everyone to equally be able to own property and to have the rights to those properties despite, invaders. And you have situations now where, when you have a problem, like the situation in New York where, the homeowner comes in, decides to sell the property, realizes that there's squatters living there, and they can't do anything about it. So who do they call? They call the police. Well, now that when they call the police are arresting them and not the people who have trespassed. And what this is going to create a culture of vigilantism. I think that's the right way to say that. You're going to create a culture where vigilantes are going to be taking the law into their own hands and creating even more dangerous situations because they're sick of it. They're sick of their rights not being respected. And we're already starting to see this. There was another story, I don't have the link to it right now, where vigilante justice was actually enacted on squatters. And people were injured and people were harmed, and they shouldn't be doing that. And they should suffer the consequences of that. But there also needs to be a way for property owners to remove squatters.
Dude, if I can't if someone comes in, and I own a rent house, and someone comes in and squats on it, the problem is if the law doesn't allow me, I'm going to get arrested.
Well, that's exactly what happened
I mean?
in the story that I'm talking about.
See,
here.
I wasn't here.
You were out doing your thing.
Which, by the way, he may be a few minutes, but
that's fine.
It may be a lot of few minutes. I'm not real sure, but he'll get here if he gets here.
If he gets here.
But here's the deal, man. Like, seriously, you just expect me to allow someone else to come live at my house?
Yeah.
That's bull. And I'm not taking it.
Yeah, no,
I'm going in, and you better believe I'm going to have a gun with me. And if I have to repair my property because I've screwed it up because of some moron that has come in there and decided to live in the house that is mine, and I didn't give them authorization, we're going to have a problem.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, man. Is like it's going to turn into a vigilante system because the cops, I mean, and it's not the police's fault.
No.
Because they are upholding the laws that are on the books.
Yep.
And those laws need to change because people have realized that they can take advantage of a situation and live somewhere for free.
Yep.
And people, not only that, it's gonna cause a massive decline in real estate investing too, because because investors are going to realize like this is not a safe situation for me to be putting my money into anymore. Because all that anybody has to do is just find an open window, crawl in, claim squatter status, and then the police will haul the property owner away whenever you confront them about getting out.
It is the law that is on the books is not even bad. The problem with it is it's incomplete.
Yes.
There may need to be an addendum.
Yeah, there you go.
Or an amendment. I like that word, addendum. To the law to say, look, we're now going to include residential homes in this, because it was not intended originally for that. It was intended for a lot of different homeless people and different things like that, right?
Yeah.
Am I wrong about this?
No.
Okay, so that's where we're at. We're at a point where, and this is where I not to get political or anything, but this is where law is a problem. For example, did you know that it's illegal in Texas to carry a pair of wire cutters in your pocket?
What?
Yep. It's illegal.
Is that because of fencing?
It's exactly what it's
Yeah,
because back in the cattle drive days, people would carry a pair of wire cutters with them, just cut through someone's barbed wire fence and go through it. Well, they created a law that says you cannot carry wire cutters in your pocket.
Yeah.
Because, and the whole idea was, they're through the property before the property owner has an opportunity to come out and do something about it.
Right.
So the idea was, if you carry it in your pocket, it's way too accessible. If you don't carry it in your pocket, you got to put it in somewhere.
Yeah.
And so that it's going to give the property owner an opportunity to come out and take care of it. That is a law still that they've just never taken off the books. It is illegal to carry a pair of wire cutters, or they're called other things as well.
Yeah.
But wire cutters is what I've always called them. It's illegal. Well, that law needs to be changed. We no longer live in cattle drive days. We no longer live in a place where that's really an issue.
Well, listen. The reverberations of the range wars, though, is still strong.
Oh, there's no doubt.
Listen, in Texas, in many states like Texas, there is a whole separate division of state police around horse and cattle theft.
That's right.
And you want to get in some trouble?
Talk to a Texas Ranger.
I mean,
Seriously.
yeah. I mean, that's one of the things that they do.
Yep.
In other states, it's something different. I forget what it's called. If you ever watch like Yellowstone, it comes up quite a bit because
or Walker, Texas Ranger. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, the big thing in Yellowstone is they get control of that department.
Right.
And that's how they end up like running the cattle game in Montana.
Yep.
But it's true in like Wyoming, it's true in the Dakotas, it's true in Idaho,
Yep.
California, Florida. I mean, a lot of people don't realize how big of a cattle state Florida is. I mean, they have like their own
right.
Agricultural police
right.
that do those kinds of things down there. And so I get why that's still on the books.
I do too.
But to me, it's an easy fix, right? Instead of saying it's illegal to carry wire cutters in your back pocket, just increase the penalties for cutting a fence.
That's it. And that, to me, but that's exactly my point in this scenario, is like there needs to be a different law enacted.
Right.
It is not even changing the law itself. Look, I'm happy for there to be a law against squatters not having some rights.
Right.
I want them to have some rights. I do think that there are benefits to that. It just needs to be amended to where it's not the same as it used to be.
Well, because like a tenant can become a squatter by not paying the rent.
Of course.
But like sometimes there's good reasons why they're not paying the rent, because there's been improvements to the property that haven't been made that made it unlivable. And so like you need those protections in place, but it just seems so easy to have a checklist for police to go through and go, well, okay,
this is an illegal situation.
yeah, like you just haven't paid your rent, you're a bum, get out.
Right. Yeah.
Like, and then move them out.
Yeah, and for eviction situations, that is a little bit different. I agree.
Sure.
There's eviction situations, and there's got to be probably some sort of law that goes, okay, now we're going from a tenant to an eviction situation, now to a squatter situation.
Well, and that's different, because if you went from a tenant to being evicted, you had a lease agreement.
Correct.
Right? And
you
so
violated it.
The person that owns the property can show that there is a paper trail. Right? That you agreed to this, I agreed to this, you didn't hold up your end, so now you're getting evicted.
Correct.
With some of these squatters, man, they've never paid rent.
Right.
There's
ever.
no lease agreement. And,
Nope.
and to me, it's like...
Or they've forged a lease agreement, which is even worse.
Oh, yeah, we've heard about that.
Yeah.
Or someone else forged it and duped them.
Right.
Yeah. And that sucks, but sorry.
Yeah.
Be smarter.
Yeah.
But there needs to be something in place for when that situation comes up. Like, it's like the, that bit from Parks and Rec where they visit with their sister city comes to see them from Venezuela?
Yes.
And it's just like, no, straight to jail.
Yeah, straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
You can't do that here. Yes, straight to jail.
Straight to jail.
No, I agree. I just think it's a situation where some changes need to be made.
Yeah.
And I don't know who it's going to take. That's the problem. Someone's going to have to take this under their their purview and just go, look, this is a problem. I'm going to take care of it. It's going to take some. It's got to take some.
So I've got another one here. It's different.
Okay.
We have an Australian real estate agent named Julie Bundock.
Oh.
I think that's how you pronounce it. It's Bundock.
Bundock.
She got famous for all the wrong reasons.
Uh-oh.
So I'm going to read you the headline.
Okay.
Poor Julie Bundock. It says real estate agent accidentally burns down multi-million-dollar property ahead of open house.
Oh my! Did she go in to do an open house and made a mistake?
Yes.
Oh my gosh!
Yes.
What did she do?
Oh my! And this was just like 3 days ago.
Oh, okay.
It just happened.
Wow.
It was in Sydney. Here, I'll read it to you. It says a real estate agent accidentally burned a multi-million-dollar property to the ground while preparing for an open house. Australian real estate agent Julie Bundock was preparing for an open house at a 4-bedroom home on Sydney's northern beaches when she noticed the current renters of the house had left some bedding on the deck to dry. She removed the sheets and threw them in a downstairs room onto a shelf below a light, which she then switched on. About 20 minutes later, a major fire broke out in the house on Riverview Road in Avalon Beach, believed to be caused by the shelf and bedding heating up, catching fire due to the wall-mounted light.
Oh my goodness! That's a
the
bad
house
day.
was estimated to be worth $2 million,
That
along with all of its contents.
is a bad day.
Was destroyed. So you got 3 things happening here. 1, you've got a real estate agent that made a really bad mistake.
Yep.
2, you've got the people that actually own the house that lost that property.
Right.
3, you have the renters that had all the contents on the inside of that house
Lost
that was
everything.
gone. And I don't know the laws in Australia, but in Texas, you can rent a property without renter's insurance. And if you do, and something happens to your property,
Sorry.
good luck.
Yeah.
You're
it's just-
getting nothing.
no. And for those of us that live in Texas, we go, that's what you deserve.
Yeah.
You should have made better choices. But that's a bad day.
That is a really
I can't
bad
think
day.
of a worse day unless you lose life. Thankfully, no life was lost.
Oh, it gets worse. I read further down.
Uh-oh.
So the owner of the property took her to court.
Okay.
So apparently this didn't happen like the story broke 3 days ago.
Okay.
But there were also 4 renters in the house.
In the house.
4 separate renters.
So this was like a house hacking type of situation.
Probably.
Okay.
And all 4 individuals that were renting took her to court
Individually.
with the owner of the property.
Oh, so she had. Oh.
She's having a really, really bad day.
Yeah, I don't think this is going to go well
No.
for her.
No.
No. Liability is evident.
Again, like we don't know the laws in.
He's still reading.
Well, yeah, because they've already resolved it. The judge ordered her brokerage to pay $483,736, and then a combined amount of basically $80,000 to the 4 renters. So I mean, like honestly, she got off light,
No doubt.
or her brokerage got off light.
I would assume that the insurance more than likely, the insurance company is then taking over the other liability.
Yeah.
Most likely. This
Oh,
is probably the deductible. $480,000 deductible. No, thank you.
Yeah, it's.
Should have invested in solar.
Oh man, yeah, that's right. You'd have that tax credit, that lovely tax credit.
Yeah, something. Just something. Well, dude, I don't know. So where we're at right now, for those of you that are just tuning in, we are live at the Sci-Fair Home and Outdoor Living Show at the Berry Center, and we just got through talking with our solar friends over at True Texas Solar, and we had a tree guy. They own a tree company in Huntsville.
Uh-huh.
They sell the trees, but they also install them, those types of things. and he was planning on coming and hanging out with us. But the show's starting to pick up, and there are people.
Yeah, there are
walking
people
around.
moving through for sure.
So I think he may be occupied. So
It could be. Well, let's go ahead and take the opportunity to thank the people that
Yes.
allow us to be here.
that's right. Let's do it.
So, shout out to our friends over at Lone Star Appliance Repair. Guys, listen, we still need to talk to them about that fridge that makes the craft ice.
I actually did a little bit of research on this, Craig, and I found out that Sub-Zero currently does not offer a craft ice option.
Those, I can't even say the word that I'm thinking of.
I know what word it is. No, that's current. Now there may be something that I'm unaware of, or that's maybe in the works. But
Yeah.
I'm just telling you what I've heard. It appears
Mm-hmm.
that LG may be the only one currently
Okay.
manufacturing them. I
thought
could be wrong.
I thought the fridge that I thought it was Samsung that.
It may have been a Samsung. I think Samsung and LG may be the only ones. Now,
Okay. Well,
again,
regardless of whatever appliance brand that you carry in your home, Lone Star Appliance Repair can repair it
Yes,
for
they
you. They've repaired several appliances in my home. Great owners, local business. Just give them a call. You can text them. You
Yep.
can call them. You can email them. And they are very responsive. And they work on all appliances, including sinks.
That's right. I don't know why, because a sink isn't an appliance, but they do. And the phone number is 936-647-2364. Again, that is 936-647-2364. Like I said, you can text them or call them, and they will be available. I'll tell you, every time we talk about this,
Right.
it dumbfounds me the number of people that go, this went out, I'm going to go buy a new one.
Yeah,
Because honestly, that is more work.
for
'Cause
sure.
Do you know how many appliances there are in the world that are new? Like the different brands, the different styles, the different features, the different things, and like they all cost a lot of money.
Yeah.
And they're all different. And like, for instance, we actually had a scenario where we had to buy a new washer. Our motor went out and it was not repairable.
Right.
Okay, so we literally had to buy. This has like 715 functions on it. I can't use about 3 of them, and that's only if I am really thinking.
Right.
Most people in the world, they use one function on their washer.
Oh, yeah.
One function on their dryer, and that's it.
Find the one you like and you just keep going back to it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so, but that's the case also. Find what you like and stick with it. Use an appliance repair company if something goes wrong so that you can keep what you have.
Yeah.
You don't have to go source something else. You don't have to go figure out which features you're going to need and what you don't. Now you got to learn a whole new system. You got to have someone else in your house coming in, like installing it, all that kind of stuff. Just call Lone Star Appliance Repair.
Yeah.
Not that big of a deal.
Not a big deal. No. And like for me, man, like most of my appliances are on the second and a half floor. I don't want to bring them down.
No.
I mean,
Second and a half. 2.5. Did y'all hear that? That's weird.
like my dishwasher, my refrigerator, and my stove,
Yep.
all on the second and a half floor.
Yep.
So,
And your air fryer.
well, and my air fryer. Do they work on those?
I don't know.
I would think
We
they
need
do.
We need to find out.
We need to find out.
I don't know. I think most air fryers are like a warranty issue.
Well, like, yeah, when you're buying like the $60 ones, I mean,
Sure.
like, but we got like the $500 like
Yeah.
KitchenAid,
Yeah.
or no, what is it?
I don't know.
I can't think of it. It could be KitchenAid.
They have like some of the bigger brands, like not just brands, but like the bigger size ones. They're
Yeah.
more like an actual oven. They're like a toaster oven almost.
Yeah.
You can
Ours,
do, like, all
it's
kinds of
like
stuff.
it's like a double stacked toaster oven is what it looks like. It's got 4 racks in it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's a mini oven.
Sure.
So
That's good.
yeah,
Well, cool. Well, Lone Star Appliance Repair. Give them a call.
Yeah,
Give them a
call.
text. 936-647-2364, and they will take care of you.
do you think some of your old buddies, your old comrades over here would want to come sit down?
My old comrades.
Yeah,
Who
these
are they?
these Cutco guys.
Oh, I don't know. They might.
Can we go ask them real quick?
Go talk to them.
Yeah.
Go see if someone wants to come over. In the meantime, I will talk about something. There's always something to talk about. If you are just joining us, we'll let you know we are at the Berry Center in the Tomball, Cypress area. This is the Sci Fair. big complex. Man, this place is massive. They got some state-of-the-art facilities here for football, basketball, other things as well. Really, really cool facility. We're here at the Sci-Fair Home and Outdoor Living Show, and there are vendors from all over the Houston area that are here displaying their products, and they've got everything. We found a foundation repair company. There's window repair right across from us. He just mentioned there's Cutco, and there's a guy cooking down here with his own show, displaying various cookware. We've seen window shades, we've seen roofing, we've seen home remodeling, there's a golf cart company here, landscapers. If you can imagine it for your home or outdoor living, there are vendors here, and just a really cool opportunity for you to come hang out. There's all kinds of people are giving merch away, all kinds of stuff. So it's a good opportunity to get in and learn, hey, what can you do in the spring to spruce up your home and make your life a little bit better as far as that goes. So, Craig, it looks like it may be
it's too busy, man.
Sign off time. It is so busy. And when I say busy, look, there's a lot of people here, but it's not packed. What it is I see enough people around that like every vendor is kind of talking to someone,
yeah,
and so they're busy, and which is good.
We don't want to pull them away from the opportunities that they're getting, because what's cool about this is as an individual, rarely do you get to like just have that face to face,
yes,
with services that you're looking for, and actually get to ask some of the questions that you're always wondering about when it comes to like things that you want to do on your property.
Yeah, but the pressure is pretty low.
Yeah.
Because like if you let's say that you were thinking about windows.
Well, there's some people that they're doing some high pressure stuff in here.
Yeah, there was a guy earlier that I was like,
there's a guy that's like, no, let's make an
off.
appointment. It's like, no, we're not doing that.
I'm here for a podcast, bro. But like, let's say there's a window guy across from us. Let's say you want to talk about windows.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know who you want to talk to. There are like half a dozen window companies here.
Yeah.
You can talk to all of them without having them at your house with the intrusion of that. You can come to them. It's just a different opportunity. I'm pretty
Dude,
excited.
I've seen
about
like 30 people walk by with those brooms.
I want to go check those out. It's the rubber broom.
The rubber broom.
Yeah, I don't know what it is.
They've got like this whole display set up where you can like watch them, how it works on different surfaces.
Someone said they're hilarious too. I need to go check it out.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not kidding when I say it's like the 30th person I've seen walk by with that broom.
That's a lot of people. Well, listen, thank you guys for tuning in. We're going to sign off here. And listen, if you've not subscribed or liked our content, y'all, we are putting out all kinds of content. We're putting out stuff on YouTube, on Facebook, on Instagram, on our regular podcast channel, The Homeowner Show. It's where it's at. Please follow us. Give us a like and a subscribe. We're here every Tuesday and throughout the week. So until next time, we'll see you later.
See ya.